Past players, past legends, past legends.
So it was a real sliding door moment of whether to and the surgeon Greg Keane did the patella tendon, which he said after the operation, said, look, your knee itself, there was actually no other damage other than the fact that you snapped your ACL. The rest of your knee is actually quite fine. Like there's no meat. So it was a bit of a weird, I had quite a
that is a
laxing
weird
knee,
one,
he said.
Yeah.
So whilst I'd snapped the ACL, the rest of the knee was actually quite fine. So he said, in terms of recovery, you can recover quite quickly. And so I had that in the back of my head, and then I sort of remember having a chat to my father at the time. Good old Jack, he sort of said, "Well, if you go away, you'll never. If you go away and travel, whatever, you'll never get back to being up there." Sorry, the dogs. Someone's got other dogs barking. And that was sound advice because he sort of said, "Look, you do that and go away, but you'll never get back to playing at the level you're playing because it's just too much time off." And I thought, oh, well. And then when the surgeon said it went really well and it's looking good, and then I hadn't really made a decision anyway of what to do. But then I remember watching, I think round 1 or round 2 of our season start, and I just thought, oh, this side is, we had a red hot side. I thought we're going to win the flag this year, and I thought, oh well. I just thought I'd stay around, and I had nothing to lose really. And the big thing was, I had to my physio and the doctors were all a bit saying, "Oh, you shouldn't really do it." And I said, "Well, look, at the end of the day, I've got nothing to lose. I'm not on a $500,000 contract. I'm not risking anything other than my, what's the worst thing that can happen is that it goes again, and then I'm done. So I'm happy to risk. I'm happy to risk that, to be honest, for the sake of trying to get back and win a flag. So once I set my mind to it, I just had a real crack at just, I just did all my training myself and just. I was pretty diligent on my weekly routine. And then the biggest thing was sort of meeting with the match committee and saying, they didn't want me to play at all. Like they were saying, you should just, park it this year and worry about next year. And I said, oh, well, look, I'm not interested next year. I want to play this year. So we had a fairly heated match committee meeting just to play that reserves game at the end of the year. And I'd got the doctor and the physio in there, and they all just okay it. And I said, well, I've got the okay from them. So I'm just saying I want to play. So played the last game in the twos. Sort of lucky in a way because the last game was against Port in the twos, who were quite strong. So that was a good hit out. Aaron Keating was actually coming back from injury as well in the ruck in the twos. So it was quite handy to have him in the ruck, because he ended up playing the Crows premiership that year.
Played in the two flags,
So he and I had actually myself, Aaron Keating and Todd David all had long-term injuries that year. So we all sort of had supported each other with our rehab to a degree. And so Keats, I think Toddy might have already played a couple as well, Toddy Davey.
Yep.
But that was my first game. And then the next week, fortunately, the reserves player had a final against South Adelaide down at the Bay it was, and so that was a really good hit out as well because they'd loaded up their reserves team with a lot of senior players.
Yep.
So that was quite a good hit out. So I got 2 games under my belt where I played really well in both, and so sort of forced the question with the selectors, and then they picked me in the first final. It was my 3rd game. Which we lost to Port, so that did go down to. And I was reasonably happy with how it went. And then we had quite a tight tussle in the prelim against Centrals, which was quite a high-pressured game. And I actually came off in the last quarter, sort of got a knock on my knee and was a bit worried, but it ended up being okay. But we got over the line. Thankfully, that was probably the more proud. I think once we got over the line in the prelim and then we were into the granny, I think the pressure, there was still the pressure, but I think we knew that once we were there that we were the better team, and we were always going to take that one, I think.
I can honestly say I've only been relaxed turning up to 3 grand finals, 82, 97 and 2012, and correct on all 3 there. I admit in 12 against Westies, I was actually openly just telling people the game plan. This is what we do.
Yep.
James H is going to go there, and the guy, what do you know that? I said, well, I have read the playbook, you know, and that, and 97. I've walked in. I have told JC this, but and I don't bet on footy.
Nope.
I had this feeling JC is going to win the Jack Odie medal, and I look at the board. I reckon you were 16-1. I'm actually surprised, you know, considering the little footy you'd played, you weren't longer, sort of, because there were players a lot longer odds than that.
Yeah.
No, I don't bet on footy. No. Jeff Wilson said, if ever I regret not listening to you, it was that day, and that sort of thing he said since. And sure enough, we absolutely shitted in, and the game was a cliffhanger for the first few minutes, and that was it. We sat back and relaxed, and you brained them that day, mate.
Yeah, it was a good day. Yeah, it was sort of like, I was a bit sort of lucky in a way because my role was, I was a bit off the chain because they were quite focused on jars and halves to a degree.
Yeah.
And so I was sort of like, you know, sort of got free rein to sort of just go for it. And I think because I, you know, obviously coming back from injury, I hadn't had a hadn't had a backlog of form for them to really worry about. So I think I was a bit of I got sort of snuck under their radar a little bit on the day. And so no one really went to me for the whole day, really. So I quite enjoyed just running around getting kicks. And I was a bit rusty in front of goal. I think I kicked 2 goals, 4. Would have been nice to kick a bit straighter. But anyway, I'd been out most of the year, so I hadn't had a lot of shots on goal.
And
does it make it even sweeter that, you know, you had injury at the beginning of the year, you were sort of umming and ahhing, and you've not only come back and won a premiership, but you've obviously won the Jack Odie medal as well?
Oh, yeah, it does have a tinge of sweetness to the, you know, just the work that I did. I knew I did a lot of work, and so that's nice, a nice feeling to know that, you know, I mean, sort of did a lot of the work on my own as well, so it was sort of like a nice sort of reward from that side of things. And I didn't leave anything sort of short. I really pushed as hard as I could to get fit. So that was pretty rewarding from that side of things. So you know, even the physios and doctors were a bit sort of, you know, hesitant about it all, but I think I'd done as much as I could to get as fit as I could. But I must admit I probably was a bit worn out going into the next pre-season because I'd basically done a pre-season, did my knee, did another pre-season, played 5 games, and then I was into another pre-season.
Yeah,
so I was a bit cooked by the end of '98. I reckon I was a bit. If you had your time again, you thought, oh, you probably need a break.
Yep. 97 selectors obviously showed faith as well. It's a good feeling from the club, you know, being behind you all the way and supporting you in, you know, allowing you to apply your trade in the biggest game of all.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, I think a lot had to do with Rhodey. He sort of backed me in, and Albie Menzel was on the selection committee, and I remember him actually, you know, citing him missing out. I think in '82 he missed out in the grand finals. He hurt his leg, broke his leg, so he sort of like was one that in the match, that meeting that I had with him, was one to sort of, you know, from a player's perspective anyway, you know, talk about, you know, missing out through injury. So the fact that I had proven myself to be fit, all I was just asking them was to give me an opportunity to see whether I could, you know, prove myself to get back in and be of benefit to the side. That was the main thing. Is I didn't want to just get selected to just be on the bench and, you know, get a token sort of. I wanted to sort of contribute, and thankfully that's how it worked out.
Let's go into that a little bit more deeply. Port Adelaide, who are you standing, and some of your memories from the game?
I think Timmy Ginniver was sort of, you know, the other rover, but yeah, we probably didn't really pay too much attention to each other, only a little bit. You know, and that was sort of the main game plan was for me to just get off the leash and give Jarman some, you know, and we sort of had we had a luxury. We had Brett James just played an AFL flag. He was on the half back, and we had Roger James and Sujai Cook played a great game, and Harves was in the middle. So we had a pretty deep midfield. Really, he could sort of run 6 or 7 us through there. So
I think
Brett
I think Brett's preparation for that game was a tad different than Aaron Keating's. I don't think anywhere near as much
Beefy.
alcohol went through Beefy's body as went
I
through
think Keats probably
Keats.
celebrated.
Yeah.
Good luck to him. It was all good.
Now, it showed you were pretty respected, though. The players' representative is a serious position at Norwood. It's nothing taken for granted, and you were elected to take that role in '88, and it's got probably something Norwood you could reflect on a bit more now. Back then, you probably just taken it in your stride, but it's probably now, afterwards you go, well, that's good that I was held in that esteem and respect, mate.
Oh, yeah, I suppose so. I was probably one that was a bit outspoken, I suppose. I was probably why I was made players rep and not vice captain or captain.
Yeah.
But no, I was, I think these days the AFL do it quite well with the whole AFLPA and players, rights and things are really taken to a whole new level. But I mean, there's so much money involved but sort of back then it was a bit more sort of I don't know. I think it was just the guy who was prepared to organise the footy trip, really.
I reckon you were pretty good at that too. Yeah.
We had a couple of good ones, but it was always good fun. I mean, I just enjoyed the playing group and the mateships and all that comes with it. I'm sort of hopefully do a little bit more this year with the past players and get that back cranked up again. And it's always hard to keep the momentum on that front, but it's always important for the club as well. So,
something Glenelg do very well. I've got to be honest.
What did you do after?
We'll get to that. He did a fair bit of coaching after that. We will get to that.
Yep.
What's your memories of your state game then against WA at Footy Park, mate?
Yep. It was a fairly free-flowing game. Everyone was out there to get a kick. We had a great side. It was amazing. I think Brian Benke started on the bench and came on at half-time and kicked 6. Brodie Atkinson was a Magarey medalist. He started on the bench. This is a fairly star-studded team. I think Barnaby French got drafted after that game. Ryan Fitzgerald, he got drafted after that game. So, yeah, it was still that era where you sort of thought if you played well, you might put yourself in the name up in front.
Yeah.
Well, it was. The recruiters were obviously looking at it. But yeah, that was good. It's always good fun to represent, the sort of the league that you're playing in and sort of pick yourself against another league, from a different state. And it was a reasonably good hit out. And yeah, the time when you're sort of 24, it was sort of just a nice thing to have done, just another sort of little thing. That was good fun. Yeah.
99, the grand final. It was a great game. Just still waiting for Lenny Pascoe to take that one step forward to mark the kick from Roger James. You know my memory, but JC, I've never
There's
taken
a lot
that
of
loss well. Yeah. Just as we're still waiting for the umpire to blow the free kick for Bain and Lowe from last year. We'll get around to it soon.
Yep.
Certainly what if. Superb spoil from Tommy Carr. We've got to give him his due there. But, geez, that was a good game. Eugene Warrior came off the bench and, nearly got us up. Sponge and Halves both carrying injuries and trying to work out how long they could play for in the game. And, it was so near so far, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one that sort of got away, but I mean that's history now. But yeah, it was super disappointing. I think we sort of, I was carrying an injury as well.
Yeah,
and we were all sort of a bit banged up, but you just try and do what you can do and hopefully get through. But wasn't to be. But I was sort of thinking, I won one, had a good game, lost one, had a bad game. So I'm 15 all.
Yeah, I don't reckon you were that bad. I thought it was a really good game overall, though.
It was. It was great. I knew Gene Murray, that whole final series is amazing. He played some outstanding footy. I think. Well, I don't think I've watched the 99 replay at all, but the prelim against Glenelg was pretty hilarious because I remember.
I might have watched that game a bit more than the grand final since. Yeah.
Early in the last quarter, I think it was like there was still a fair bit of time to go on, but one of the Glenelg guys ran past and said, I enjoyed Mad Monday, boys, and I looked at the clock. I was thinking, "Geez, you've gone early on that one." And then Eugene came out and kicked 3 in about 3 minutes, and
Yeah.
it was a different ball game also. So yeah, but no, 99 was one that that's footy. You can think about it, but I mean, we'd all probably sleep a bit easier if we did win it. But
Yeah.
it's as time goes on, you're just thankful you won one.
Yeah, Bobby Davis pretty unlucky not to get a free for late would have put us up too. So there's so many things, so many what ifs.
Yeah.
So
And the Norwood Port rivalry.
Yeah, fantastic rivalry. I think it's dissipated a bit since
Yep.
Port's gone in the AFL. I think particularly our era, it was still very strong, but I think over time it's just not quite the same with the Magpies as they are. Even though they sort of still got their own identity, it's still not the same. I think the genuine sort of Port people sort of all follow the bigger AFL team now.
Yeah.
I think that the Norwood's biggest rivalry now, where you get a massive crowd, is probably Norwood Sturt.
Yeah.
Which is just the way it's gone with the AFL.
And
I've got it's just impossible for Port to sort of, you can't maintain both profiles.
No.
You've got to be one or the other.
I'll give Glenelg their due. Fantastic atmosphere at down the bay on Anzac Day. They've done up their playground to a huge extent, and there were more families there that day. And I said to this Glenelg family next to us, because they were taking in turns to take the kids over to the playground, one quarter, and then you'd watch a quarter and swap over and that sort of thing. And I said, look, full credit to Glenelg. There's more families here today than we've seen at Norwood an entire year. And the guy says, what? Yeah. And I look, we grew up in the era. We all loved it, JC, the Friday night footy, the Coopers Hill was packed. But those days are gone, and I do think a family focus with day games, because there's so many elderly people now, will not go out at night. And I think Norwood, and I think the comp's got to be smarter in that regard as well. That's a personal opinion.
It's a real hard balance between obviously not competing against the AFL games and finding your window in and around that fixture.
But again, you are doing that every Friday night, where quite often there's a big game on. Person gets home from work, especially if it's cold and wet. Yep. You ain't seen them at the parade, mate.
Yep. Yeah, and I agree. There's sort of certainly some validation in sort of trying to find that new market of and think families and kids. And I mean, I remember when I'll probably an example. I mean, I used to take the girls down. It was a Saturday afternoon game. Be nothing better than like going down the parade and watching a game or even if it was a Sunday afternoon. I know that's not as easy for the players because it's a Sunday arvo and takes up the whole weekend. But there's definitely some validation in trying to find that next market of supporters that you need to take you into the future. So it's definitely got some. I think Glenelg, they have a bit more grassy area, which I think makes it family friendly a little bit more rather than the old concrete terraces. So that probably works a bit. So I mean every club has its own
unique
sort of
bit,
I mean we get gather round and we get all that sort of exposure and whatnot. So there's pros and cons of everything.
So you did 2 knee recos, so you certainly had plenty of experience there, plenty of hammies. I wouldn't mind $1 for every time you jag your hammy. Either Pete, we could go to the pub now and we go, all right, I remember that. Yep. So you played your 100th game against Sturt in the 2002 prelim final. Not a great, but geez, you must have been pretty satisfied to crack that bloody 100 games, JC.
Well, that was coming off the second reco, I think, and I was touch and go. I think I can't remember now, but I think I finished the season before. I was on 99 games, and then I had to, and then it went again, and then I rehabbed again, and then I was sort of getting towards the end. I was scraping the barrel a bit, but we'd started a family and life was moving on a bit, so I was sort of but I was pretty keen to get to 100. As much as I'd missed a fair bit and whatnot, but and it was you were sort of getting on with your own life with family and work and whatnot. So the footy was getting harder to fit in, and so there it was sort of like a bit of a race to the finish line to get the milestone. So, but I remember playing that game, just thinking, I'd fallen behind the pace a bit with how quick. When you're younger, you can catch it up a bit quicker and you can stay. When you're older, it was just a bit different. It was like, oh, this is this time away has really put me behind the eight ball. Even though I got back, I was like, ugh. I was sort of not quite near the mark. But anyway, that's life.
You had a bit of a unique perspective here you can give us, JC. Macca could obviously do the same, but you've coached both the male and female side of things at Pembroke. What got you to Pembroke in the first place? And give us your time there at the Kings, mate.
Yeah, well, I had a great. My first year after I actually played down south, down at Goolwa. Goolwa Port Elliot. We had a year down there. There was a few of us went down and played down there, which was great fun. And then towards that year, we'd actually fallen pregnant with our twins, so we had a fair change of life.
Yep.
Coming towards us. Holly was 4 and the twins were on the way. So the job at Pembroke, sort of David Walk actually heard about it. They were looking for a coach, and I said to Kelly that'd be, I could sort of be good, sort of feel it's close to home, and if I'm sort of can get a little bit of an income out of that, and probably think it wasn't too much pressure, but a lot of time, but it was really enjoyable. In 4 years of Pembroke coaching the boys was great fun. Sort of had Kelly went to Pembroke, so there was a fair few people who had a connection with.
Yep.
Through her friendship groups, and so that was great fun. And we had some good times. We lost the grand final to Paynham in my second year against Macca.
That was a good game. I was at that game,
which was a great experience. The old man played a great game, so that was he wasn't meant to play that well, but he did.
He did actually. He directed very well. Yeah.
So I did that for 4 years, and then sort of had a bit of hiatus from footy and just family life and work took over, and then the twins sort of came along, playing a bit of junior footy and sport, and then about 5 years ago, the Mark Whiteman was president of the Pembroke at the time. They'd been trying to get a women's team off the ground for the old scholars for a few years and just had no luck getting it off the ground, and they approached me about it, and I said, well, look, I've got, my daughter Holly and all her mates are keen to play, and they've just finished school. And so we sort of thought with her network and friendship groups and my connections and some of the Pembroke girls coming through, the juniors from Glenunga and stuff, that we thought we could get a team off the ground. And so we did, which was great fun. It was, started off in Div 6 and toured away in that for the first year, and then second year they bumped us up from 6 to Div 4, and we played off in a grand final in the second year and lost by a couple of points to Pulteney. And that was interesting times as COVID was sort of floating around. So it was interesting times, but it was just great to get it off the ground for the club, and I think they're into their 5th season now, and it's not an easy gig, the women's footy. Like everyone thinks it sounds like a great idea to start a women's team, but it's not easy. It's quite a transient sort of environment, women's footy. They love it, but there's 17 to 22 is about your window of age group that you can get, particularly sort of, in the college sort of system and certain areas. And then, girls will tend to get a job, and now they have the careers and stuff, so they won't do both. They won't do footy and that, or it's a rarity. So,
and also the injury side of it. The girls.
Yeah, and also footy's fun, but injuries aren't. So the girls are pretty pragmatic. So they'll just go, well, this is a bit too hard. I don't like that part of it. Which is fair enough. But so that's why you sort of have to have that age group where I think 17 to 22, where they're sort of young and fit and don't have sort of work responsibilities, or they're at uni or whatever. You can sort of still keep them. They love the social side of it. It's fantastic, and it was wonderful for Pembroke as a footy club. They they really benefited from having a women's team and just changed the whole ambience of the Saturday night back at the pub, there was a whole different good vibe with girls and boys and all playing footy and talking about footy, and that was really pleasing to see from that perspective. So. Sort of having the daughters play as well was good fun. Just being able to spend a Saturday with them.
Do you think a lot of clubs have survived because of the women's comp being brought in?
I don't necessarily think clubs will. It's more a survival of whether the women's program can survive within the club system. So it's just very. I think it's not. Whilst there's the AFLWs, again, it's the same thing as, it's all great at the top, but then it's a lot harder at the lower levels.
Yes.
Participation rates are hard to maintain. So it's quite difficult. It's not as easy. Whilst the participation rate high through the girls footy, 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s, amazing, and then after that, it becomes a bit more of a slog to try and get.
I think the dynamics are a little bit different too than for Pembroke as a college side. Same thing with uni as a university side compared to Payneham. Now, I know when Payneham girls side were programmed to play on a Saturday night at Payneham, they said they generally did an extra $2,000 to $3,000 over the bar. So there's more benefits there than what there is for, for Pembroke drinking at the Kenzie or uni at the Havelock, etc. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, every club's going to be different.
Yeah.
On that perspective, that's for sure. But yeah, it's it's just it's just a numbers game. Like we've had one team in the women's for the old schools at Pembroke, and we would at least had to have a squad of 30 to 35 to facilitate one team. Of say 16 on the field and 4 or 5 on the bench.
Yeah.
Regularly throughout the year. So, you really need, to have two women's teams like the reserves and an A grade. You're going to have 70 odd.
It's hard. Uni have got a second side up this year because there were so many left over, but it's not only that. You've then got to come up with the extra officials, the extra volunteers. People have no idea how much work goes into community clubs. People helping don't grow on trees nowadays either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, JC, give your work a plug, mate.
Actually got a new. We were in real estate for about 15 years.
Yeah.
We had a family business which we sold the rent roll side of that about 7 or 8 months ago.
Okay. Yep.
We were just now I'm actually working for a company called Cobalt Blue Australasia. If you remember player Malcolm Allen Bartlett.
Yes.
He played for the Crows and the Bays.
Yep.
So he and his wife Vicky have family. It's their family business, and I've just joined them running their sort of logistics warehouse operations. So they've sort of got a fairly good little team, and they've got 3 or 4 vans in a truck, and they've got lots of customers that they supply a lot of equipment to hospitality and cleaning products and I'm just assisting them with, basically running that sort of logistics side of it and getting all the orders out and making sure the warehouse is all organised. And so, it's nice to be working for someone rather than having to worry about your own business after a while. So, we're quite enjoying it. So it's good.
Hey, greatly. JC.
Yeah, we've got to do.
We always leave on this way.
Absolutely.
Best players you played with?
Right. How many do you want?
Go however way you want to go.
Well, Gary Abbott Senior was,
he went all right.
And Gary McIntosh would have to be right up there.
Yeah, he went all right too.
Yeah.
Jazz.
I'm very fortunate to play with them. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Hardest opponent.
Oh, hardest opponent. That's a good one. There's a guy. What's his name? Played for Port. See that? I'm bad. I can't remember names. You remember him, Malcolm? He's a redhead Port. Angry little ant.
Not David Brown. Not Settree. Not Brown.
Orman Allen?
No.
Orman Allen?
No.
A little bit later.
He's sort of around 99 era. It's like a nuggety little rover.
It's going to annoy me now. I'll think of it. I'll think of it during the night. I'll text you.
Yeah, that was him that popped in my head. And it's probably disrespectful that I've forgotten his name.
I reckon Timmy G would have been up there as
Timmy
well.
G was good.
Yeah.
He was all right. We didn't play a lot against each other though, so
Hey, no one remembers that now, though, mate. Yeah, you get away with it. You can say anything now. Yeah. Hey, greatly appreciated, mate. Please say hello to Kelly, and look forward to catching up too, JC. Thanks, mate.
No worries, guys. All good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks,
Cheers,
JC.
Bobby.
Thanks, mate.
Bye.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe.